All right. Good evening. Prior to the official start of our Board of Supervisors meeting, we're going to be interviewing two applicants for the golf committee. So they're kind of being broadcast. Aaron, is that okay if you're being televised throughout all of Lower Makefield and parts around the world?
Sure.
Which is wonderful because this will also be on YouTube. So you got that going for you.
Great.
First, I would like to thank you so much for volunteering to be a part of the golf committee. We really appreciate it. I know many of the board members reviewed your resume and were suitably impressed with your golf experience. And my understanding is you probably could beat all of us up here easily. That being said, I would like to ask the supervisors if they want to ask any questions. If you had an opening statement, if you had any things for us, that's fine too. Or if you want to just wait and answer questions, that's easy too. However you would like.
Yeah, I just appreciate the opportunity to speak. I mean, I do have experience golf, pretty much golf my entire adult life. I applied because a neighbor of mine had mentioned it. It seemed like it checked a couple of my boxes, and I'm trying to get more involved in doing things, not for profits and in my community as well, volunteering. So seem to mesh a lot of my goals together. So happy to assist in any way I can.
Awesome. Supervisor McCartney, would you like to start the question?
Sure. Thank you so much. Thank you for applying. My question for you is, I don't know if you're familiar with Makefield Highlands. It's an amazing golf course that plays plenty of rounds. One of the biggest challenges that we've had there is the food and the kind of the post-golf activities that we can do there. Do you have any experience with certain things that we can do as a golf course to maybe bolster some of those the food and the beverage piece of what we're dealing with?
I guess only from the experience. I'm a member of the LPGA amateur women's courses group, and I participate in that for many years. And so as a group, we often stay at courses to take advantage of situations, and I have been at Makefield Highlands. So, I mean, I guess just from a user perspective and interacting with other people for several years about what we like and don't like and why we stay and don't stay, that sort of thing.
Okay, excellent. Besides that, I have a very wicked slice. I'm hoping maybe you can help me with that at some point, but if not,
It's
I'll
probably all in
pass.
your grip. That's
Pass,
what
yes, that's what I've been told. Thank you so much. I have nothing else.
Thanks.
Supervisor Grenier.
Follow that up. Thanks again for volunteering. Obviously, working with LPGA, you have a great golf background, but you also have a understating this, you have a very solid corporate background as well. What would you like to focus on if you're asked to be a member of the committee? What couple, 2, 3 things would you like to focus on the most to help improve Makefield Highlands?
Well, I think kind of just in general, I do actually, I appreciate the comment about the participation in after hours, because when I have been there myself, I have noticed a couple things that maybe could improve, but I'm also happy to assist in finance situations in other not-for-profits that I'm associated with. I also often help them on their finance ability as well. So I'm relatively flexible, honestly.
Okay, I'll let other supervisors ask given the time.
Supervisor Blendy.
Good evening, Aaron.
Hello.
I am the supervisor liaison this year, so if you are lucky enough to be selected, we'll get to spend some time together.
Excellent.
Yeah, no, you're a lucky day. But, I'm always happy when a resident raises their hand, and I'm particularly happy when a female resident raises her hand, because we just don't have enough participation out there, ladies. We can do it. We can do it.
That's actually kind of what prompted me, because that's what my neighbor had said. So that was one of the reasons.
And if, you have the opportunity to serve on the committee, I'm sure that would be, besides this, wicked experience that has already been highlighted, that's something that naturally you would bring as you try to grow the game. Because I know that's important to people who golf, and people like yourself who are more than just an amateur golfer. I appreciate how good you must be. And I also think that your insight, even just as one of the residents who has eaten there, because there's not enough of us, would be helpful, because we are trying to make a golfing destination, not only for those who golf and those who want to go to the driving range or any of the other things that we've brought forward, but, you know, it's a nice place to get a burger or a salad, because believe me, it is.
Yeah. No, and I actually, the driving range is one of my go-to places to practice, honestly. So I do like the facility we have there.
It's great that, you know, you've raised your hand and you're somebody who's already using the facility, so I'm sure you could hit the ground running.
Good.
Thanks a lot, Aaron.
Sure.
Supervisor Ross?
I'm not a very good golf person. I'm not even good at mini golf, so I don't really have any good questions to ask you. I think everybody took care of all those good questions, but thank you very much for volunteering.
Of course.
And with that, I think, Ms. Hanson, thank you so much for applying. We appreciate your effort here. And I think for those in the audience and those who are listening, we've learned a couple important things. If you haven't been to the Makefield Highlands Grill, you need to get there. The food
Yeah.
quality's improved and continues to improve. The drinks are cold, and you're always welcome at the Makefield Highlands Grill. Just a note for folks. Thank you so much. I'm not sure if we'll have a decision for you tonight,
That's
but I
fine.
hope so.
Okay.
Thank you very much for applying, and thanks for being
All
part
right.
of the community.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate your time.
Sorry we're
Thank you
late.
again.
Yep. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Hmm? Sure, Dennis. Dennis, I'm sorry, as I had said to Ms. Hanson, we ran late in executive session, which delayed this. And so I have to give you the disclosure that you're now being broadcast live throughout Lower Makefield Township on YouTube and Facebook. So just full disclosure.
Thank you.
Keep your expletives to a minimum. But typically what we do is just ask a few questions. Obviously, you've served the township for how many years on the Parks and Rec?
This is probably close to 20 now.
Wow. Okay. With that, I'll yield in, Supervisor McCartney, I'll let you go first again.
Sure, thank you. I appreciate that. Hey Dennis, how's it going? Good. So one of the questions that I had for any of the new applicants or people that are applying for the position, you know the golf course, you know the challenges with the golf course. Our business partners over there do an amazing job on the golf part. They're killing it. Where the township really wants us to step up our game is the food and beverage piece of it. If you have any suggestions, plans, if there's anything that you've seen in the past that you think could improve in that would be a huge asset. I'm not putting you on the spot. You wouldn't have to answer that right now. But that's definitely something that we would want some type of, guidance on and making sure that we're maximizing ourselves. Besides that, I do have a terrible slice, so I'm hoping you can fix that slice if you're a golfer. I'm
I'm probably one of the more frequenters of the course. I play
Are you a single digit handicap? Close.
Yes.
Okay.
but Not,
See, he can fix my slice. Apparently my grip's too tight. Yes, it's on the grip. Thank you, John. I
at the
appreciate
moment I
it.
am. I have my handicap closed under 10 at the end of the year, but it'll climb again.
Okay, thank you.
Supervisor Grenier.
It's been a while, then. It's nice to see you.
How are you?
Good, good. Well, I'm familiar with all your years of great work on the Park and Rec Board. So obviously you use the golf course. You have a lot of experience in the township. So my question is, what are the couple, 2 or 3 things that you'd like to kind of dive into at the golf course where you see yourself as possibly taking some leadership roles and trying to improve things?
Yeah, happy to. And in fact, when I moved to the township probably 30 years ago, my boys were involved in organized sports. And I was telling this story a little earlier tonight. I wanted to get involved in the Park and Rec because at that time, the clubs didn't get along. There was friction with the clubs in the township. I just thought that there had to be a better way to make it work smoother because it was really for the benefit of all the participants and all. So I got myself involved. I got onto the Park and Rec Board. I served it for something like close to 20 years now. We did a lot of good things there. And I'm kind of proud to have been part of the Park and Rec Board when all those things happened. And then, as you know, the parks have been developed fairly well right now. There's less going on now than there was back then. And I started to realize that I probably had more energy I could devote to something like the golf course, which is still fledgling in some respects. It's kind of a new thing for the township. And I love the game. I'm passionate about it. And I would love nothing more than to see the course continue to do well. And I think one of the things I do, I plan trips for our friends socially. And I kind of pride myself on doing things in a economical, but very nice way. So I used to call myself like the frugal luxury planner. So I do think like spending is always a concern. And I know the golf course, even though it's generating revenue, doesn't have unlimited funding to keep things, keeping it thriving. But I do think that if we didn't get the right attention, it could really suddenly fall off where it wouldn't be as interesting to players. And maybe the level of play might not fall off, but they might not be willing to pay as much for greens fees as they do now. I think we have a beautiful course. I think we command a pretty healthy greens fee, but people are willing to play it, judging by the number of rounds the course puts out every year. So I think keeping that, I think my contributions could be in finding ways that we can keep that course attractive to the players. So it's contributing to the public, because not everyone plays golf. I realize that. But as long as the course is doing something to help the township, that's fantastic. And, you know, taking those precious funds and finding good ways to apply them in the course would be kind of what my focus would be.
Appreciate that.
Supervisor Blendy?
Hi, Dennis.
Hi, Dan.
If this is like an elaborate plan to dump a Blundy, you should know that I am the liaison for golf this year. So you might be getting rid of Mike, but you'd be stuck with me.
I'm not
All right,
dumping
all
a Blundy, no.
Just wanted to make sure.
I love working with your husband.
You know, the golf part of golf committee is the easy part. I mean, obviously there are things we could do better. And I think the points that you bring out about how do we make sure it's a great course while managing the funds. But, you know, the real focus that for many of us, or at least for me, is how do we improve the other pieces of it? You know, so for the people who don't want to spend the days out there. So do you go to the golf course to eat or drink? Do you have any feedback, or have you given any thought to what we can do in those areas?
Yes, I do. I take, not only do I play a lot of golf, I spend a lot of time on the deck. I enjoy some of the Friday afternoon happy hours that they have under the tent. And I will say that this is my opinion, the food has oscillated over the years. There were times where it was like pretty bad as a consensus. I do like the fact that this current management team is experimenting with different things, and I think they've gotten some traction on some of these items. And even these Friday happy hours tend to be, they seem to be pretty well attended when I go there. So things like that seem to make sense because they can appeal to more than just the golfer. Perhaps the golfer stops there after they're done playing, but if it's advertised right, people from anywhere in the community or beyond can come and partake and enjoy. And it's a beautiful place to hang out and have a beer with your friends.
I agree. No further questions.
Thank you.
Supervisor Ross?
I think everybody covered all my questions too. Thank you very much for volunteering.
Oh, my pleasure. My way of giving back, John.
Yeah, no, Dennis, thank you so much for 20 years of service to the Parks and Rec. If, for example, there were other potential committees that you were interested in shifting on that were not golf, are there other ones you might consider? Because we do have other openings.
I was, I'd probably be happy to continue on Park and Rec until there was a golf opening.
Okay.
Or if there was some dire need, if you had a big hole and you were,
Funny, you should ask.
We have plenty of
let
opportunity.
me,
Yeah.
I take it under consideration.
Run, Dennis, run.
How are you with it? Well, I wasn't going to ask for the show, and I have a plan for your slice. The Nicholas Flick School, they write on your hand, and it makes a big difference. No, we have a lot of work in Patterson Farm that to implement actually the work that the ad hoc property committee did. So there are openings there, and we'll be talking about that in the meeting. I want you to keep an open mind about that. And I know Erin's probably watching this. Hopefully she would keep an open mind depending on how that resolves. And it's difficult when there are two amazing candidates to make a decision, which is why I asked the question. But I thank you so much for coming out today.
I think I was not part of the previous interview, but I think it was Aaron. And I would just say one observation, there's 9 members on that board now, and I'm saying this kind of as a detriment to myself, but I think we probably need some more female representation on that board too. So,
All righty.
so you could, if you wanted to consider expanding the board by 1, you could add both of us.
Thank you very much, Dennis.
We're a fan of
And,
that number.
Thank you all.
Thanks.
Thank you, Dennis.
With that, I'm going to call to order the formal meeting of the Board of Supervisors for February 7th, 2024. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty, justice. I'll do a quick roll call. Supervisor McCartney,
Present?
Supervisor Grenier, here. Supervisor Blondie. Supervisor Blondie.
Sorry, I was looking for the chief.
Oh,
I'm here. He
okay.
is not.
Supervisor Ross.
Here.
Okay, awesome. With that, we're going to begin with the community announcements. And this is the portion where if you have an announcement you'd like to make to the community, we can read them here for you. But I'm going to start with the Parks and Rec Department is hiring for all seasonal summer positions, including the pool, summer camp, and field maintenance. To apply, please visit www.lmt.org. By the way, there is a Zoom call for folks if they're interested in working at the pool. I'm sure that you're going to want to consider that as well. So if you know somebody's interested in working the pool this summer, please tell them to contact us. Registration for the pool at LMT opened on January 29th. The first 1,000 full paying adults will receive a guest pass. That's right, the first 1,000, and that's going soon, Monica, soon. And it just opened January 29th, and we're February 7th, so the 1,000's going fast. But if you want that free guest pass, be sure to visit www.lmt.org. Lower Makefield Township will be hosting a blood drive for the Red Cross on Friday, February 23rd, from 12 to 5 p.m. in the meeting room of the Township Building. To sign up or log on to redcrossblood.org, enter sponsor code Lower Makefield. Many folks may know that we are having a blood shortage. I know this issue Supervisor Blondie has mentioned previously. If you can give blood, please, we strongly encourage you to give blood. And they've been giving out all these nice prizes, $10 gift cards at Amazon, lapel pins if you donate enough blood over time. So definitely give that up. Plus, once you're done giving blood, I'm told the drinks hit you harder. So if you want to save money on alcohol, donate blood before going. Sorry. This is why I make sure people are up for that. And then finally, the Parks and Recreation Department and the Makefield Park Steering Committee will host a Makefield Park open house on March 26th. And that's changed from the previously reported date of February 21st from 6:30 to 8:30 at the community center. Now, remember, again, that is March 26th, 6:30 to 8:30. The format will be presentation style, followed by the opportunity to visit themed stations. After the presentation, a video will be posted to the Zen City project page where residents can watch the video and engage with different parts of the proposal. Again, if you're interested in the future of Makefield Park, definitely show up and provide your insight on that as well. At this point, we're on to section 5 of our agenda. That's public comment on non-agenda items.
John, can I just jump in there?
Sure.
Just a reminder to everybody, it is the most wonderful time of the year, which means Girl Scouts are out and about selling cookies. They are everywhere. If you've already purchased or you don't want to purchase for whatever reason, just try to be kind. These are our young ladies who are trying to learn how to be entrepreneurs and to engage. So $5 if you buy them in Pennsylvania, $6 if you buy them in New Jersey. So clearly we're the winners. Please try to support all the young ladies. Thank you.
And along those lines, if you have multiple visitors, my suggestion is buy 2 boxes from each. Don't try and buy like 10 from one or anything like that, because more of them will come to you over time. And if for some reason you have a lot of boxes of extra Thin Mints or anything like that, as I will, I'll be handing them out later after I've made all of my purchases. But Supervisor Blundy is correct. You definitely want to buy your Girl Scout cookies in Pennsylvania because that's the right thing to do. On to section 5, which is public comment on non-agenda items. So if you would like to speak on a non-agenda item, we just ask that you line up, come up, state your name, whether you live in the township or not, or if you're a taxpayer. At this time, is there anyone who would like to comment on a non-agenda item? So if it's on the agenda, you can comment then, but if it's not and you want to comment, that would be ideal. I'm not seeing anyone line up. Sure, come on down.
Be back if it's in the agenda. Hi, April Bollwich-Clower, resident of Lower Makefield Township. I was wondering in terms of its, I want to say it might be under community development, but what Mr. Majewski was working with families and residents about PEMA and FEMA assistance is, is there an update on that, or do we know if that's still in play?
Dave, you want to?
I don't know that anyone expressed, I think there was a solicitation for folks that potentially had an interest in being applicants. But I'm not, I don't know that there was anyone that expressed an interest from the neighborhood.
Yeah, I sent our past FEMA information and was wondering what the next steps were, but we didn't get an update as to how the community is
Okay.
being reached out to, if we should try to do it like crowdsource it, or what the best way for us to go about that.
Okay, I'll have to, April, I'll have to check with
Okay.
Jim. I'll make sure to have him circle back with you on that
Okay,
issue.
Thanks. And
Okay.
Highland Drive is going to be under the engineer's report probably? Okay, then I don't have any. Thank you.
Is there anyone else in the audience that has public comment on non-agenda items? And I'm not seeing anybody. This is where I ask the gentleman in the booth, do we have any callers on the line? No callers. Okay. Fortunately, this isn't a radio talk show, so we don't need callers to continue. With that, I'll move on to agenda item number 6, consider approval of minutes from January 17th, 2024 meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions on the minutes? Any comments? No public comment, nothing online. With that, call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Let the record reflect that the vote was 5-0. Moving on to agenda item 7, Parks and Recreation. Item A, authorize the release of an RFP for food concessions at the pool at LMT.
I just came up in case you need me.
Sure.
That I'm here for that purpose. If there's any questions you have about the RFP, I'd be glad to answer.
So moved.
Oh, well, okay. So with that, Monica, if you'd like to just provide a 30-second overview of what we're doing here and why.
Sure. We have had a vendor at the pool for about 5 years. The contract is now up. So we're just putting this out for proposal. There's a couple things that are modified in the agreement before. In the agreement, it stated that we would have to approve their food pricing, but with the volatile market, I think it would be a little bit more prudent to allow the vendor to approve their rating. If they're not selling food, they're not selling food, and that's on them, and we're doing it for a rental base.
Mhm.
And then I don't know if Dave wants to speak on some of the pricing or fee structure to the board.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. Again, this is a request for proposals at this point. It's for the years 2024, 2025, and 2026. Consistent with the form of the prior agreement, it also provides 2 option years as well for 27 and 28. that can be exercised at the discretion of the township. The document that you have provides an outline of the scope of services, does establish an annual rental fee required for consideration, so the bidders will be aware of that as they're looking at this opportunity. And then also provides a mechanism for subsequent year adjustments to that fee based on inflation as measured by the Consumer Price Index. The form of the agreement is generally consistent with the form that was used previously with some slight modifications. This fee-related issue, and then as Monica noted, that change. And then there was just some additional language added to provide some flexibility to the township moving forward.
Is there any supervisor questions, comments, concerns? Any public comment, questions, or concerns? Oh, no callers on the line either. Okay. With that, call the question. All those in favor of authorizing the release of an RFP for food concessions at the Pool of LMT signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Is that everyone? So that's 5-0. Well, Monica, I think that's all you've got for today.
Yep.
Are you, you're free on your own recognizance. You can go home.
Thank you.
We'll move on to agenda item 8, Public Works.
Good evening, Supervisors. Before you, I have one agenda item. It would be to consider the approval of the purchase of a Public Works digital repeater radio system upgrades in the amount of $49,392. In the 2024 adopted budget, we had an allocation of $50,000 budgeted for this item.
So moved.
Second.
Awesome. Any questions, comments from supervisors? No. Any public comment? No public comment on the phone? Okay. Excellent. With that, call the question. All those in favor of the purchase of a Public Works digital repeater system signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Let the record reflect it. The vote was 5-0.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Supervisor.
Thanks, Derek.
Moving on to agenda item 9, the engineers report with general project updates.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, fellow supervisors. Just the item for our engineering report this evening. I did want to just highlight a few of the projects that are ongoing at this time. First of which, just to bring everybody up to date on the Makefield Drive, the site restoration, which the township had submitted and gotten approved the emergency permit when that first needed to be addressed. If you recall, following that was the general permit with DEP, which is the longer term permit for the work that was done there. That was submitted to the DEP on the 19th of January. And I am pleased to report that they let us know today that that permit has been approved. No comments to have to address with that. And everything we've done to coordinate with them was completely acceptable. And the township now has an approved general permit for the work that was done with the restoration work down in that neighborhood. The stream work on either side of Taylorsville, coming out of the conversations and meetings we had with DEP, they wanted the township to look at where the wetland limits were, where some of these gravel bar obstructions might be in the stream. And we've done that in the field. We're now finishing up our basically exhibit plan and report that shows where those limits are. That will allow the township to have that information for any kind of movement forward with projects that might come about. It also kind of turns the page on the work that was really being addressed in that area after the storms to now moving into more of what is the plan for more of a longer term permanent fixes to the stormwater end down there. So that's really kind of being led at the moment with land studies work. And then as these projects are identified, obviously they'll come before the township to be considered. One I wanted to mention that's still in design and then going into permitting is the Highland Drive project. The Highland Drive portion that comes down to Taylorsville If you recall, that's authorized the bid as soon as it's ready to go. Currently, the effort is working closely with both PA, American Water, and also Pico Gas. They both have underground lines that go basically right where the culvert is under the stream. To have them relocate as part of this project, they submit to DEP as well. It's a GP5 if you're keeping track of the GP numbers that go to the DEP. So to package that all together will save a lot of time compared to Pico submitting their own GP5 and having a separate effort with the permitting. So that's been a little bit of a kind of a holding pattern as far as the permitting going in. We expect that to be completed here in February, so we can have that full package of permitting going to DEP. Similar with the general permit, we're in constant discussions with DEP, so they know exactly what's coming in with the submission. And then with their approved permitting, we'll look to go out to bid shortly thereafter. So that going forward, the aim is to likely their permitting takes about a month, honestly. So we're looking at most likely, that permitting to be done into March, aiming for April to really get it out for contractors to take a look, and, construction to follow after we have a bids received to recommend to the board going into the I guess it would be early summer. So we'll update you on any updates with that, but as soon as that permitting is submitted, we'll let the township staff know and keep everybody informed on that next milestone that's achieved with that one. The South Drive Culvert project, I wanted to just highlight that one, last one on the engineering report here that I had noted, just because that one is now closed out. It's a project that the township, I think it really benefits that neighborhood. It replaced the culvert that was in much need of repair. The cost of that project total was $258,000, give or take. The original bid was put out. It had other costs that was with the Contech culvert and some things that basically took place in construction. So as with every project, we look at kind of lessons learned, how to better position the township's projects to get really good bid prices and a smooth project. So having all that packaged up to bid out together so the contractor is aware of some of those items, I think will really help us as we go forward with other projects to make sure everyone's on the same page when it starts. We don't have these costs that come in construction. Just mentioned that Highland Drive project. That's exactly what we're doing. We're getting the utilities, we're getting everything ready and packaged up, so it's ready to go all the way through. The project, from what we've heard, very well received from the neighborhood. Turned out very well in construction. The solicitor I know lives in that neighborhood. I think it's very nice to drive over, so it's all smooth and finished up at this time. We'll continue to recap and provide updates for projects as we go through the year. So each one we can have go even smoother for the residents as we have them go to construction. With that, I'll be happy to answer questions on any other items in the report, but wanted to provide those updates on some of the ongoing work.
I'll recognize Supervisor Grenier first because I think he has some questions. If he knocks out the ones I've got him checked. So let's see if you,
Let's see what
you take him out.
Thank you for that. I'm just really a couple follow-up questions on the ones you went over and maybe a few others. For Maple Vale, the permit that was issued today, apparently, thank
Yes.
Which GP did they actually issue? You know which number it was?
I don't have that right in front of me. I can look that up. And
I'm curious if they went, we've always talked about an emergency permit.
Yeah.
If they issued a 5, it's a standard utility crossing permit, but if it's an 11, we might have some ability to do ongoing maintenance over time under the GP 11. So I'm curious as to which one they issued and why. If you follow up on that, that would be appreciated. Just
yes, very good. I might be able to find it before we're done
perfect.
talking. Yeah.
The delineation work you did over and stream and wetland delineation work you did, looking at gravel bars over by the Prospect Farm Drive parcel. The description you gave is that it's more information gathering for future planning, future work. Some of the notes talked about a separate GP3s for probably stream clean. Are you still anticipating having to apply for GP3 to clean out the gravel bars or do some type of work in there? Or is that more that could be something we have to do, but we're going to wait until we get something else from land studies or whatever it may be to better understand that. I just want to understand what we're going to do with that information now that we have it.
That's a good question, and that was brought up as a consideration when it was first getting looked at. Kind of came out of the pre-application meeting with DEP. Since then, the work that land studies has started and kind of is planning to continue, identified that area of the stream with the gravel bars perhaps not benefiting from clearing out too much in that area, just for the fact that they want to see how the way everything's intertwined. They don't want to allow all the water to really come through too fast, right? So it's all connected in that way. So at this time, we expect kind of a pause after this information's been gathered, and then we'll have that if that's one of the directions to go in the future to get some permitting, or perhaps another direction depending on kind of what's identified as a beneficial project.
We have other land studies stuff on the agenda tonight, I believe, that are kind of sort of related, or at least adjacent to. That was good clarification. Where is it? The Highland Drive project, I know with PA Water and Pico both having to relocate or put their pipes underneath our culvert, they both technically also are both issued a GP5 for their work. Same thing, we're getting GP11. Right?
Yes,
So we're getting a GP11, they're both getting GP5s? Is that how it's working?
correct. Yeah, and it gets kind of packaged together for the DEP, so they can see the whole project kind of all in one with the different GPs that are the issue.
So they're going to check that at the DEP, you check a general permit information form, you check off which GPs you want for different stuff. So are they're providing their own drawings that we're going to append to is that how it's going to work?
What we've done is we've worked with them, meeting with them regularly now the last couple of weeks, just to get exactly where their lines are going, so we can have it all kind of on one plan set. It'll identify, obviously the work their contractor is doing for the gas line, the work the water contractor is going to be doing for the water line. But it'll have everything shown together. So hopefully it's as concise as possible for them to review.
Okay. And there are different we're not doing design work for them. They're doing design. They're going to feed it to us to put their drawings in ours, right?
Correct. Yep. And the coordination is so that our culvert doesn't wind up on top of where they move to, right? It's a bit of a dance there with the utilities.
And all these GPs come with a different fee for number of crossings. So I want to make sure that they're paying for their GP5 crossing fee. I think it's $250 per crossing.
We're coordinating that as well. Yeah. So it's pieced
We don't
together,
wanna be
but
paying for these
yeah.
private companies here doing. So I just want, one, it's good that we're coordinating. It makes it more efficient, but I also want to make sure we're not covering their costs.
I'll clarify too, for when it goes to construction, it's a contractor that Pico Gas uses for their gas line, and likewise with the water company. So it's not actually part of the contract documents for who the township awards the contract for the storm and culvert work. We'll be coordinating time-wise to jigsaw it all together, but that won't be actually a cost that the township will be paying.
And then nothing update on Woodside Road, I'm assuming, given that we're not in the spring yet.
We have heard from Pico and Verizon. They're the really two big players with the utility poles. They've been moving as they've told us they were going to do for lining up when that pole relocation is actually going to be happening. So they are still on track to do that during the winter here with us, as we had heard before, the plan to do the asphalt straightening out and the trail work as soon as the weather warms up, hopefully right after they're done with those poles.
Yeah. Well, they can move their contractor down the street and move the poles.
We could, yeah.
And then my last question, hopefully I'm checking boxes for you. It doesn't look like it though. Just looking at your notes. How are we coming with the road program? I know we're trying to push that forward. So can you give us an update on?
Yes, and preference to the board. I didn't mention that one due to just that it's on the agenda under Mr. Krasner's manager's report. So if you'd like, we can kind of overview it now, or we can kind of overview it when
Whatever the board's preference is.
I know they have a proposal to provide services, but we also want to get things advertised and all that. So is that is that a separate issue, or?
No, I mean,
Really.
go ahead,
Yeah,
Oscar. You
I
jump
can,
in.
I guess let you know kind of the schedule of it, and then obviously the scope of services. If there's any questions on that, we're happy to answer. The schedule for it, we've been coordinating not only with Public Works, also with Parks and Rec, one of the alternates. will be to resurface and have improvements for the trail on Oxford Valley between Heacock and Darby. There's a few other alternates with that as well for the roads themselves. But tonight on the agenda, obviously, is to authorize the full scope of services per the budget that we have approved for the year. We anticipate that the request for the authorization to bid the project would be before you at the meeting later this month on the 21st. Following that, we'd look to have advertisements out the end of February, which, fast forward a few weeks after that's advertised, the minimum time, looking to open bids by the end of March. So if all goes smoothly with the pricing, and we believe it would this time of year in the, winter, spring, for the summer work, we would look to have the recommendation for the award for the road program before you at the April 3rd meeting. That's currently our timetable.
I had one more. I didn't scroll far enough. The last question I had, I swear.
Yeah. He's got his gavel.
That's 3 minutes. 3 minutes. Sorry.
Happy to go through the list of roads and kind of what that is too, if you
No.
want. We touch on that later.
Yeah, no, the Patterson Farm, I know over the course of quite some time now, your firm has been doing soil testing for lead contamination and whatnot. And it looks, based on the report that we recently received, that hopefully we're at the end of the testing. And now we're able to consider moving forward with some remedial action. Is that a fair statement, or is there more testing to do?
Correct. The testing is all complete. The report's been provided to staff. So it has some recommendations in there from the results. And at this point, there's no further testing, planned on our end, or, depending on what direction the township wants to go. It has the recommendations provided in there.
Okay. Thank you.
Awesome. Other supervisors, questions? Okay, I will truncate my list. There were some that weren't covered. The detailed project plan for Mapleville, is it your plan to update that soon to make that available for the community with all the work that we've done to date? So the folks have that?
We do, yeah.
That was a leading question, I suppose.
But yeah, and with the approval received for that general permit, which I know was one of the items on there, that is kind of next on the list, is to just freshen that update, and we'll look to provide that to staff, within the next week here, where we can do that.
Excellent, because we would like to make that public. And then on the South Drive culvert, what was the final budget versus actual?
The final contract value was $258,698 and 61 cents. The original contract value was $176,568.
Okay.
And as I mentioned, the original contract didn't include some of the coordination unloading work with Contact, as well as some of the work associated with their final culvert design.
Okay, excellent. Not hearing any other questions, is there any public comment, questions? Any on the line? No, okay. Starting to wonder if anybody's out there listening or watching, if we don't have any callers, but that's fine. Moving on to the manager's report.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. So first item under my report is we're seeking authorization to advertise an ordinance amending the definition of open space within the zoning and subdivision and land development ordinances. This is a change in definition from prior amendment to the zoning ordinance and subdivision land development ordinance that the township enacted in, I believe it was August of 2023. Essentially, the major change in terms of the definition is excluding recreational facilities, courts, pool facilities, paved trails, and other developed recreational structures that contain impervious surface. Those would be excluded from the area that would count towards an applicant's obligations under the open space ordinance. The Planning Commission has recommended the adoption of this ordinance in its current form, as has the Bucks County Planning Commission. Additionally, the definition was reviewed and edited slightly by the EAC as well. So the definition that is before you is consistent with the recommended definition by the EAC. So at this point, again, we're simply seeking authorization to advertise the ordinance to make that amendment. Happy to answer any questions that the board may have.
Is there a motion to advertise?
So moved?
Second?
And with that, any questions, comments?
I have to admit that I'm behind on this one and my apologies to everyone. So we've sent this to zoning. We've sent it like, I know we have a process, or at least we try to stick to a process where when we're thinking about changing something, we reach out to all of our committees, et cetera, to get their input. So that's gone through this whole process.
That has, again, our planning commission would be required under the municipalities planning code, as would county planning commission. Both have done that. We did take the extra step in terms of engaging the EAC on this issue. So they have reviewed that and made a recommendation at this point.
So just to be very literal, zoning, do we care that zoning didn't weigh in, or it doesn't matter? Don't shake your head, Dave. I'm talking to the other.
They are not, they're not required to. They're required to enforce the ordinance or interpret the ordinance, not necessarily legislate its provisions. So
Thank you.
So I think, I think I was the liaison of both the EAC and the planning commission as they were going through this process last year. The one item, and generally speaking, the concept behind this definition change is to address some questions that have come up and clarify some items. Maybe that's a better way of saying it. For the last several years, when we talk about open space requirements for developers or other entities, when we're referencing the definition of open space within our ordinances. So this is an attempt to clarify, clean up, provide clear direction in terms of what would be considered open space for future development. It does remove some recreational facilities from the definition of open space. That doesn't mean that we don't want them to do recreational facilities within developments. I think that's a key component of any development. It's more to clearly define what open space is, and then recreational facilities would be defined separately, and they could pursue that separately. The one piece of that's not included that was discussed in earlier versions, I'm not sure where, in the EG section, there's at the EAC level, there's a lot of discussion about specifically removing ball fields as well as courts and everything else that's removed there, because the way ball fields are managed, they're not necessarily managed as quote unquote open space. There's lots of treatment that goes on, relative to land treatment, mowing, sometimes fenced in, sometimes restricted uses, et cetera. So I would ask the maker of the motion if they'd be up for a friendly amendment to add under the section in parentheses where it says e.g. sports pool facilities, et cetera, if ball fields would be something that they would also consider.
You want to add that after paved trails? Is that where you want that?
Honestly, anywhere within the parentheses, it wouldn't matter to me.
Is it just fields?
Yeah.
I'm not even on my field hockey rant, but I'm just thinking, about other types of sports that may not involve a ball, but a frisbee or.
Just sports fields would be a more generic statement that would fit. Yeah, I'd be okay with that. Not saying that they wouldn't be able to develop those and provide those, developers won't be able to provide those. It would just be in a different context.
Essentially, as I understand it, the developer should not get credit for that.
Exactly. That's. Otherwise, I'm fully in favor of this definition. I think it clarifies things.
So
No, I was just gonna say, what specifically why do you want that specific verbiage in there? What are you trying to avoid?
So the open space generally is looking to promote resource protected lands, open space with additional trees and things of that nature, providing a passive recreation habitat as well as other things more for walking, hiking, forested areas, et cetera, more naturalized areas versus active recreation where, first pools, basketball courts, tennis courts, whatever they may be. To me, those are clearly not open space, right? Those are nice benefits to have in any development for sure. full advantage of all those if I lived in a place with those things. But I wouldn't consider that open space.
Right.
Sports fields fall under that same concept of a quarter pool facility or, you know,
They're more like active space.
active space. They're not promoted. You're not going to plant it, you know, you're not going to plant a tree in the middle of a baseball diamond or something like that. You're not going to, you're not, residents are often not allowed to use sports fields because they're being, you know, they might be used by another entity. So it's just and it's, again, it's not to not promote those things because they provide a great benefit to any of the communities that where they are. It's just to clarify that it's not open space. It's a different type of space.
Dave, Dan, can I ask you a question while James is considering your friendly amendment? Because I think you're kind of like the expert, no disrespect to the rest of you, but I think you're kind of the expert on this. Anybody who can answer it, please feel free, because I am confused. So this is saying that for new developments, to the extent that a developer would get credit for open space, the space essentially has to be natural. It can't be any of the things elucidated in the e.g. courts, pools, paved trails. If they leave it wooded or allow it to become wooded, that's open space, but otherwise it's a no-go.
They can still have park-like setting, trails, et cetera, and that's enumerated in here that you can still have.
Trails, but not paved trails.
Right.
So trails that the handicap can't go on wouldn't,
Not necessarily.
well,
So pavement isn't the only ADA friendly cover type. I understand what you're saying.
yeah.
But yeah,
I mean, you and I talked years ago about, in my limited background with the Adirondack Park Agency, we had a number of different terms that we used when we were trying to talk about undeveloped space. And, when you drive around the township, there's these little parcels of land that we sometimes have placards on and say open space. And it's woods or a lot that has become overgrown. My offensive terms, I apologize to anybody I'm offending, but also then become dumping grounds. And suddenly the township finds itself, maintaining or marshaling what's going on these pieces of property. So are we basically saying to any new development that's coming down the pike, we really want to encourage you to have quote unquote open space. And by that, we mean woods or grass, but not something that would be for focused, intentional, recreational activities.
so I don't think so. I think that would be something, I think we want both, but I think they fall under different definitions. I think we need to promote both to varying degrees for future developments. So that's why we're trying to make sure it's clear what is considered open space. Maybe we need a new definition within our ordinance that talks about recreational space. I don't know. Look at that.
I mean, the term recreational facilities is used in the MPC specifically. And again, it's within the context of a developer providing, recreational lands or improvements, construction on those recreational lands. So again, I don't think, in talking to Dave, we don't believe this is a substantive change where it's just simply enumerating examples of what a recreational facility is. There's still the requirements as it relates to a dedication of parkland in the subdivision land development ordinance, independent of this open space requirement. So to Dan's point, it's not one or the other. There's requirements governing both. He's just simply saying it's creating further distinction between what counts as open space and what counts if somebody's trying to claim that this is recreational lands, meeting the recreational, the dedication of recreational land or parkland as part of the ordinance. So
Can we specifically say pervious recreational space?
Well, I think that's what, as I understood the original intent, that was why the focus on impervious surfaces was because I guess the initial concern that was expressed was about having pervious or impervious surface within these areas that people are claiming as being open space.
Yeah, I think that's, but by using the verbiage pervious open space, it has to remain some kind of green open space versus, hard court, asphalt. Do you know what I mean?
Right, right.
So it's still.
But I think Dan's trying to create a distinction between recreational lands and open space. Like they're both required. And now most on the recreational side to meet our requirements, as you know, they're doing fee in lieu of the dedication of land. So those requirements still exist, but the pervious element, I think Dan's saying that it should essentially be undeveloped with. Now, he's not talking about somebody going out and throwing a frisbee in an open lawn or something of that nature, but he's trying to say, if it's a structured field, even though that's pervious, that shouldn't count. Am I correct in your interpretation?
For example, baseball field with baselines and dirt and bases and a mound and everything else, that's not open space. It is the way I'm looking at it.
Is Frisbee golf?
Frisbee golf?
Well, I know that's the thing Monica's been trying to, that
A lot of the
thing.
time they put that in the woods with something on a tree.
I-
I want to put that damages trees. I wouldn't want to do that. But I think anything where it's an active. Oh, yeah, sorry, I'm
He
moving away.
never
again.
does. You guys who sit next to him, you have to keep moving the mic by him.
Please push you.
Push me. Yeah, start rolling here. No, I would keep it at sports fields and then make sure that if a developer I think it probably also makes it easier to hold the developer accountable for providing open space as well as recreational lands, so that it's clear, okay, you can't double dip when we're providing open space by saying when it's actual recreational space. We want them to have to do both per our ordinances, and this helps to define that a little bit better.
Does it result in us doing both, or does it result in them saying, well, you know what, it's cheaper just to leave the trees there, so I'm not going to offer?
They still have to do recreational space. That's part of our ordinance. But we have a recreational fee in lieu, but that's specific to recreational space. But they still have to do that separate from open space. So we're just trying to define that. That's
Okay.
all.
No, I appreciate that because I'm still confused, but I'm less confused than I was a while ago. So thank you.
Try.
Dave, what would be the kind of feedback you think? Not that we're really worried about a developer's opinion of what this ordinance would be, but would it be favorable for them, or would it be neutral, or would it be like, what kind of obstacles would you see from a development standpoint that builders could push back on, or maybe?
I think what Dan's trying to do is just clarify the definition to make it less likely that somebody's trying to claim that it's meeting both the open space requirements and the park and rec. Because by enumerating these things, there already is a distinction, but you're creating an additional distinction by noting these things, and that is, getting back to the spirit and the intent of the legislation that you did adopt. It was not to have them take credit for things that they already have an obligation to do, but to provide, sort of up and above beyond what the base requirements were. So this, I think, it is, fine in the sense that it's consistent with the original intent as I understood the intent to be. And again, Dave, you can jump in terms of whether it's substantive or not, but
we had that sidebar. I don't think it's substantive in the sense that this just extends the examples
yeah.
for credit purposes. So I don't think it is substantive in that regard, because it probably follows with some of the other ones. So I would say that if you decide to add this provision to the ordinance to advertise tonight, it could still be advertised without having to go back to the planning commissions for further review on that one issue.
I'll amend the motion to delineate between open space and recreational space. Is that appropriate?
Yeah.
Verbiage?
I guess the request from, and I don't want to speak for him, from Supervisor Grenier was under the after recreational facilities where it enumerates courts, pool facilities, paved trails, would to add either athletic fields or sports fields. I don't know which term you want, but one of those terms, I guess. would be-
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'll amend it to include athletic fields.
Second.
With the amended motion, are there other comments from board members? Members of the,
Mr.
Oop.
Chair, real quick. For the
yeah,
record, I believe, was it Suzanne that seconded the initial?
no, it
Or
was,
was
it was
Matt?
Matt.
My apologies.
Yeah, it was, you, Mr. McCartney, and
Okay.
Mr. Ross. Yeah.
Sorry about
Yeah.
that, Matt. Yep.
Any other supervisor comments then? Public comment? Anybody on the phone? All right. With that, we'll call the question. All those in favor of authorizing advertisement of an ordinance amending the definition of open space signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Abstain?
Post.
Okay. 4-1 on that. Agenda item 10B.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. The next item is consider proposal from Remington and Vernick for engineering services relating to the 2024 road program. The proposal provides a not to exceed cost of $80,000. That is consistent with the figure that was contemplated as part of the budget adoption in 2024. And the scope of services is generally consistent with those that RV has performed on behalf of the township in prior years. Pricing is actually slightly down in 2024 when compared to 2023. The price in 2023 was $81,150. Again, in 2024, they're proposing a not to exceed price of $80,000. Isaac or myself are happy to answer any questions that you have regarding the RV scope of services, but we would recommend approval.
Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Any questions?
Yeah, I guess I have a process. Given the dollar value, I know they've done this in years past. Is there any reason to not RFP something like this, given the size of it and the scope? Or is this something that you'd recommend not RFP?
No, I would just say timing at this point. I mean, if that's the, general expectation moving forward, that we would probably start this process sooner. I think timing would be the constraint at this point.
Yeah, that general feeling for bigger stuff like this, where there may be different roles for a township engineer versus an outside firm to kind of team on. General concept of RFP and that type of work would be important for QA/QC purposes.
I mean, there's generally, there's really no design work that's contemplated as part of this. It's just really a surfacing of roadways. So it largely relates to, contract administration, bid administration, construction observation, processing payments, those kinds of things.
Kind of what the township engineer does in their role and other stuff, right?
Right. I mean,
Yeah, I would mention the plan preparation to the bid package basically that goes out. A coordination with the township staff for which roads and, we can list the ones that are planned for this year. The coordination with utilities, as far as QA/QC, obviously we have our QA/QC procedures. This also utilizes PennDOT liquid fuels, so the roads and the bid package goes to them as well. They do a check on their end, send it back to the township. And then, when it's in construction, it's the construction inspection to ensure the contractors following all the specifications and requirements of the township.
Yeah. A question on, this isn't really design work. It's more administration, generally speaking, right?
There are
I see-
ramps
I
and
say that
pavement
looking at phase two.
specifications.
Yeah.
so.
So phase 4, which is mapping,
Hmm.
it's a line item for $9,500 to basically an updated township map, roadmap. Can you explain that one?
Sure. Yeah. The current roadmap that the township has, I would say, a lot to be desired. Working with Public Works, it's missing a few things, even roads wise. So we are looking to, significantly improve that. And that can be done really by utilizing the tools of GIS software and CAD to make a lot of those really useful upgrades without investing a ton of time as far as redoing a map. So that's something that we have on here as the phase 4. That's not something that's required for the bid package for the contractor to repave roads and do ramps. But it is identified for the 2024 year. So that will help us have a tool for future road program planning to really kind of have a visual exhibit and a tool for the township to use going forward.
So it's the scope of what the deliverable here is a little bit vague to me. GIS is a mapping software, but really it's a database software. So making a township roadmap is not a $9,500 thing. Most of that data is available publicly through all kinds of different programs that map roads around the country. In GIS, it's an easy download.
Yeah, the
But I
bigger
think
effort, I guess, outside of the mapping
than
data is to historically gather the age of the roads and when they've been paved. That goes on the
building a road
mapping.
database is what you're doing under this. It's not necessarily a map. It's
Yeah.
a map of all the roads, but then you have a spread. It's a database connected to all those roads that gives all the history of when they've been paved, when they're going to be paved, any other issues. Am I reading that? Am I hearing you correctly?
Correct. Yeah, it's supposed to be a tool, a useful map.
That's the real tool. It's not a map to see where you are in the town. It's a tool to see where all the roads are. So that's a useful tool. Has Mr. Majewski chimed in on what he wants for deliverable there? He needs it and all that.
He's not specifically offered any comment on that aspect. So
Yeah, I mean, that map to this point, or the mapping described there, working with Derek with Public Works, it's really a tool that they would have the most benefit from. So we wanted to coordinate kind of the pieces that would go into that for them to use.
Do we have GIS software for our staff to use?
we do, yes.
Do you now have it? Okay. So this is the tool that we hand it off to him or the staff, and you can use it in. Derek, I just want to make sure that we're not spending $9,500 on something that we can't use in the.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. It can be used, and also it can be built upon.
Yeah.
So you have that information, and then.
Yeah, let me help you out, Ice.
Yeah.
Sure thing, Derek. Yeah, you can.
No.
explain what to use it for.
What I've learned is, there's not a great record keeping throughout the years. And working with Isaac is trying to gather the data from the last, I forget how long RV's been the engineer, but get all that data into one concise location. The data is kind of all over the place. It's not even kind of put it in GIS yet. It's kind of just mapping the roads of where they are. Looking back at some historic years, maps were generated that roads weren't done because they might have been a bit alternate, but yet they got highlighted as being done. So like even historic maps that we've had weren't correct. So we're trying to just correct all that, get our liquid fuels roads, make sure the state's on the same page so we're getting the most amount of money from our liquid fuels allocations, because as developments get dedicated, we need to apply back to PennDOT for liquid fuels funding for those roads. So we're trying to just make sure our liquid fuels map with PennDOT's up to date, because I think our records have, it was last time it was 2018. We have taken roads since then. So it's kind of all that legwork at the same time, trying to get all that done.
Okay, and that's what I was hoping. I was hoping.
Yeah, it's not just a map. Yeah, we have
It's a
maps, but
database.
it's data acquisition, making sure all the data is proper.
Right. I just want to make sure that's what we're doing, because that has a true benefit to the township.
Correct.
Versus a map that we never get to see or print
Yeah.
on the wall in it.
Nope.
That's the main thing.
Precisely
you.
right. And I'll just add that the goal would be, with kind of catching up with all that information and getting it in one place this year. It's something that we can do within the budget total of really the road program altogether. In years to come, it should be more of just an update. So, that wouldn't be something that's consistently year to year. Once it's kind of brought up to a good point here, it can just be kind of added on and each year as the road program goes forward.
Oftentimes when we make GIS databases, they're also web maps. So like you could put it up on the website and people go click on a road and they can see.
We're not there yet, but yes, hopefully.
It goes pretty fast when.
It does. I got to get the data first.
All right. Anyway.
There'll be a KML file then.
Yeah, we'll have all that. That's what
Once
Game of
that's
Thrones
done,
great
you
on.
can take the KML file and drop it into Google Maps or Google Earth and create your own or bring it for others. So it becomes accessible.
We're getting there. We're
We're
getting
getting
there.
there. Yeah.
Baby steps.
Huh? Okay. I use the KML because
So as
I've
you-
done this before. Any other comments from board members, members of the public, callers online? Feeling bad here. We're not getting any callers. Not making it as a radio disc jockey here. I guess we'll then call the question. All those in favor of the proposal from converting for engineering services related to the 2024 road program signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Opposed.
Abstain? Let the record reflect that it was a 4-1 vote. Um, And on to agenda item 10C.
So the next item relates to an RFP that was issued. The township had issued a RFP to seek proposals to update the township's stormwater management ordinance. We received 2 proposals as part of the or in response to the request for proposals that was released. Went through an interview process, and at this point, staff is recommending that the township engage HRG for purposes of updating the township stormwater management ordinance.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
I'll second.
Any supervisor comments, questions, concerns? Mhm.
So just clarification, because I had seen some stuff on social media that talking about this particular agenda item where I think folks are getting things a little bit confused. The point of what we're doing here is to review our ordinance to see if our stormwater ordinance to see where we can make it better from design parameters, other options we might have for future developments to improve stormwater management. It has nothing to do with the concept of a stormwater fee or anything like that. That's
Correct.
a totally different issue. It's not related to this at all. It's design driven. That would be tied to our saldo, potentially tied to our zoning, probably more saldo, and things of that nature moving forward. Could change some definitions. It could recommend some better design alternatives. Historically, we've done low impact development ordinances. We've done green infrastructure ordinances, green building ordinances. We're sustainable PA certified now, so there's some stuff with that. So there's a bunch of things that we can tie together to improve our stormwater ordinances moving forward. Obviously, our ordinances now are better currently than the state requires, but we want to see if we can do even better than that. So we've obviously stormwater's been a big deal this year, so we want to take that, move forward, and see how we can do even better. So that's what we're looking at doing. And I know there's been some confusion around that online, so I just want to say that.
Other supervisor comments? Public comment? Comment from callers? None. With that, I'll call the question. All those in favor of the acceptance of the proposal to update the township stormwater management ordinance signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstain?
Do we name the firm that we're picking?
Yeah, that was in his.
I said HRG, but not in the motion.
Making sure.
Yeah.
And then so just some additional information. So it process from start to finish is contemplated to take about 10 months. So again, there's behind the scenes work that needs to be done. But just so that there's some expectation in terms of time frame, it's about a 10-month process once they get started. So
On to agenda item 10D.
So the next item is, we referenced this previously at a prior meeting. This is a change order. It's change order number 2 to the proposal that we received from Land Studies. There was some discussion about doing some additional modeling, specifically 2-dimensional hydrodynamic modeling that would be of benefit for purposes of proceeding into construction of some of the improvements that were contemplated as part of the more global or macro study that was done. Additionally, the proposal before you also does some additional subsurface investigation using geoprobes. If you recall, some of the discussion was the potential of constructing stormwater basins north and south on the parcels owned by the township north and south of Maplevale. Again, this is getting into trying to understand sort of the depth of where infiltration is occurring. It'll be helpful when we're having conversations with DCNR as it relates to required discharges from those basins if we were to proceed with construction of that. So all this information, again, is sort of building upon the work that Land Studies had previously done and putting us closer to having the information in order to proceed with construction with some of the contemplated improvements. So we would recommend proceeding with this work. The change order amount is $36,700 is the amount of the change order.
Is there a motion?
Moved.
Second.
Is there supervisor questions or comment?
This is, so task 3 is the subsurface, basically the geoprobe. And I do a lot of these myself, write proposals and review proposals specific to geoprobes. I'm assuming they're going to provide a comprehensive health and safety plan for the geoprobe contractor, and there's requirements for site restoration if they tear up the place, as it were, as sometimes happens with geoprobes. Is in wetter areas.
Yeah, we can clarify all of that understanding. I would assume so, but it's best to probably have that conversation.
Yeah, those are the two issues with geoprobes that come up. You always need a health and safety plan and site restoration plan to make sure they don't rut up the place. Or depending on how you're accessing, is it track mounted?
I assume, I can't remember the vendor that they were using,
Okay.
but I think it was a small track mount
It'll be
geoprobe.
better, but
Yeah, because what is good is Ward saw the sites and he handles their geoprobe that they sub out, so he knows how tight. Because it was hard getting even test pits done with the mini excavator, so he knows where he needs to go. So I'm sure he's choosing a vendor that is best suited to fit in there in the woods.
any tree clearing required or no?
I don't believe they planned on any of that. They're going to work around the facilities that are there, knowing how sensitive they are.
Maybe go through some brush, but.
Correct. Yeah, no large tree. His goal would be not to, and we'll clarify, but I would assume his goal was not to remove any large trees.
Okay. And the areas he's not going to be doing any work in any wetlands or anything like that.
I don't believe so. No. Correct.
There we go. Working together. Is task 4, which I think is is that LiDAR? Is that included in that overall change order?
It is, yes. Yep.
So we're going to be flying LiDAR for basically that whole watershed? That's what we're doing?
Correct. Yeah. Yep. I
So
believe that.
So we'll get sub-foot accuracy LiDAR survey?
I believe he's trying to perform the H&H, and I think he's getting elevations from that. Again, I'm not, I apologize. I'm not looking at the proposal, and I forget it's been a month now since I read it, but I believe that was his goal, was to get contour elevations that are more up to date and accurate to then get flow data from there for that drainage basin.
And we're going to get that data too for our records?
We can ask to receive that.
Get that LiDAR.
It would be ours. We pay for it. Yes.
Yes, very useful stuff, especially for our engineer. And he thinks it's going to take him, what, 5 days total? Or I see 2 days for the senior manager and 3 days for an engineer. Are they overlapping, or is that 5 days total? That seems like a long time for a geoprobe in a small area. I'm just curious how they're doing it.
I don't know, Dan, in terms of whether that's overlap or whether that's 5 days in total.
I would assume it's probably overlap.
I would
assume it's Ward on site with one of his junior underneath him for documentation. That's what I would assume, just talking to him in the past. Yeah.
Okay.
I assume it's a 2-day operation.
In terms of access, is it all through public lands, or do we need landowners to agree?
For those 2 parcels, we can gain access from our land. Just like we did with the test pits, we gained access to our land.
Yeah, it's 3 days in total. It's not five days, just
there's-
based on the next sentence. So they're contemplating overnight stays, 1 for Ward and 2 for engineer. So yeah, three days total is what is expected.
Staying at a reasonably priced hotel or on your couch, right?
Staying at Dan's house right down the street, right?
Yeah.
There you go.
Free babysitting. I love it. Okay. I don't think I have any other questions. I just want to clarify those couple items.
Other supervisor comments? Public comment? Anybody on the line? And I learned how geotiffs work, and you can map them too. There's a site you can take the file, and it's pretty cool. With that, I'll call the question. All those in favor of executing change order number 2, the land study scope of work, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. That's 5-0. No opposed. Or abstain. Move on to agenda item 10E, ratification and confirmation of township manager's acceptance of proposal from Zelance. Oh, thank you.
So moved.
Second.
Questions, comments, concerns? Okay, no one's going to make me pronounce that again.
Was
With a nice try. And if we meet the person, I will butcher it again. I'll work on it. Public comment on the phone, anybody? Okay,
Provide just a general update of the work to date.
sure.
So there's been about 22 hours spent to date. So a little bit shy of, I think, $6,000 in total. Most of the focus at this point has been on, and this again relates to the 2022 year. Most of the activity is related to entries relative to the sanitary sewer sale and the associated payoff of debts that occurred after that. So there were some entries that needed to be made there that were not made. And then the other bulk of the work is related to the golf fund. Again, there's a lot of external data that's coming from the third-party operator, and so just reconciling that information at this point. Once those entries are made, which Allison is in the process of making those entries now, they will see sort of how things are looking from a cash reconciliation standpoint, and then that'll determine, sort of next steps. So consistent with the conversations that we've had previously, I've asked for regular communication from ZNA about the amount of time that's being spent, and also sort of established a monetary threshold where we need to sort of pause consistent with the direction that the board had previously provided.
So, if I may,
Sure.
I appreciate that, so far it's about 22 hours and some additional work has to happen for us to move forward. But do we think they're halfway done or not able to estimate yet?
So I did ask that question in anticipation of that question this evening. They said that it depends sort of how things look from a cash standpoint after the entries are made. So they were not able to say definitively that, halfway done or not.
building on that question, will we get regular updates in terms of what percentage they think they are done as we move forward?
Yeah, I've asked him. Yep, I can make sure to convey that information to you guys as well. Yep.
With that, we'll call the question. All those in favor of ratifying, confirming the township manager's acceptance of the proposal from Zelenkowski and Axelrod for accounting services signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, abstain? Passes 5-0. Agenda item 10F. I think we have a drafting error that's going to, at this time, ask for a motion to table.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor of the motion to table signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, abstain? Yeah. If you could come up to the mic, yeah. So when reviewing the contract in executive session, this is a rather perfunctory situation. This is designed to make sure that the person who's the animal control officer receives their 2024 budgeted amount and the authorization to do so. At the time, we realized there's a 2018 agreement we can't find that we need to make sure that we double check. And then once that's done, we can finalize this agreement.
You have all the other ones, but not 2018?
Right. So if the person who might have the 2018 one could provide it chief, we're looking for that to make sure everything's,
So the
and again, this is,
other 14 years, doesn't matter. Say you need 2018 or you need every.
that was the one in between that we believe that last agreement was.
Oh, okay.
And the intent here is, as we've continued to work on our finance function, we want to make sure that all payments have a corresponding agreement and that agreement matches the payment amount. So in this particular case, the budget or the agreement would only codify what was passed in the 2024 budget. So the intent is to structure the payment so they match the 2024 budgeted amount. That's the intent of the agreement.
So when will this be rectified? Do you have any idea?
I don't have an answer for you with a specific date. I do know that we discussed it and we'll be looking to get that done quickly. The board's consensus in the township manager was that payments would continue at the 2023 level immediately, so there'd be no interruption. The 2024, once that was solved, then the fix would be done so that that would be made whole.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
I didn't catch did we get your name for the record? I'm sorry if I,
And whether you're a township resident.
yeah.
Jamie Fazalore, I am a township resident.
Okay, awesome. Any other comments on the phone? Hearing none. This is the the motion to table agenda item 10F. All those in favor of tabling agenda item 10F signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstain? Moving on to agenda item 10G, general updates.
So just a couple general updates for the benefit of the board and the public. Consistent with the board's direction, RFPs have been issued for both township solicitor and township auditor. Those are due on February the 19th. Moving on, the employee handbook, which has been something that has been worked on and off over the course of the past couple of years. Dave's firm is in the process of taking a document that I had prepared and the document that they had prepared, sort of consolidating the documents and hopefully being in a position to present a final document for the Board of Supervisors review. The next couple items relate to, I guess, for lack of a better word, pending ordinances or ordinance work that the township is working on. One related to foreclosed and vacant property registration, and then maintenance for foreclosed and vacant properties, an ordinance governing special events, and then an update to the tree bank ordinance, which is a provision within the township's subdivision land development ordinance. I would expect that final drafts of each of these would be available here shortly and be on either the next board's agenda or the subsequent board's agenda. Happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Supervisor Blondie? Yeah.
Thank you. I thought one of the things that we had been looking into, and I'm not sure how far it got, but taking an opportunity to look at our sign ordinance again, and by signs, I mean commercial signage. A number of years ago, we had a rule that signs had to be backlit. We did decide to enter a more recent century and have allowed for different types of signs, but I had thought I had suggested that we needed to look at that again, given some of the developments that's going on. So
Right.
can we either add that to the list or?
Yes, and that is one that is, I did speak to Jim Majewski about after you had made the inquiry on that issue. I'm happy. I'll check in and find where he's at on that.
I do like this idea of kind of tracking it so that we don't lose sight. So I would just like to make sure that's included. Thank you.
Along the lines, the foreclosed and vacant property registration and maintenance ordinance. I know there are a number of folks on the 1500 block of Brookfield Drive who are keenly interested in this. And we continue to work on the issue. We hopefully will get this done sooner rather than later. I know that those folks' concerns were from August of last year, and it is something we are working on to address.
And Mike Kirk will be reaching out to those folks. I know you and I had a conversation about that. He was, he didn't get around to doing it today, but he'll make sure to do that.
And yeah, Mike has done excellent work in that area and has been keeping up on enforcing our existing ordinances to protect local residents, and we'll continue that. So I appreciate his help on that. With that, move on to agenda item 11, Solicitor's Report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There was an executive session tonight, started at 6:30. All supervisors were in attendance at the executive session along with Mr. Kratzer, Chief Galuzzi, and myself. It ended at approximately 7:40 when the two interviews started. Informational items, personnel items, and litigation items were discussed at the executive session. Would you like me to go on to the zoning hearing board? Sure. Okay, there are 3 zoning hearing board matters not listed on the agenda, but the 3 are first appeal number Z-24-2. Charles Pistorio applies for the property located at 183 Taylorsville Road, tax parcel 20-027-006, requesting a variance from Township Ordinance 200-19 capital B to increase the impervious surface from the existing 14.9% to 26.98%, where 18% is allowable amount, and also from ordinance number 200-18 to decrease the side yard setback to 10.14 feet, where 25 feet is required, in order to construct an attached garage, covered breezeway, and driveway addition, for a number of reasons, including not limited to the fact that this is in fairly close proximity to the Mapleville and Taylorsville area. We recommend opposition to this matter. Would require a vote.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Thank you. The next matter, appeal number Z-24-4, Jeffrey Gull for the property located at 5 South Homestead Drive, tax parcel 20-042-003. Applicant requests a variance from Township Zoning Ordinance 200-23 capital B to increase the impervious surface from the existing 18.8% to 19.6%, where 18% is the allowable amount in order to construct a shed, flagstone patio, and expand the enclosed porch. I know Mr. Gall has indicated his application for stormwater mitigation measures. We would recommend participation just to ensure that the zoning hearing board does, in fact, follow, and they have been, they've been very good about that, follow through on the requiring a condition for that to go back. So a vote to participate will be required.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor of participating in the item signify by saying aye.
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 Thank you. And the last item, appeal number Z-24-5, Buchler/Jolly for the property located at 6 Oak Avenue, tax parcel number 20-054-063. Applicant requests a variance from Township Zoning Ordinance 200-23 capital B to increase the impervious surface from the existing 20% to 21.9%, where 18% is the allowable amount, in order to install an in-ground fiberglass pool with concrete pool decking. Similar to the prior matter, we recommend participation.
Is there a motion?
Second. I'm sorry. Motion moved.
Second. All those in favor of participating signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Oppose? Abstain?
That's all I have.
Agenda item 13, community development. Mr. Kratzer, do we have anything on there?
We do not, Mr. Chair.
Okay, awesome. That moves us on to supervisor reports. Planning Commission met last week, I think, and reviewed the open space definitional ordinance in great detail. And that's all I have among my committees. Supervisor Grenier.
Sure. Ad hoc will not be meeting this month. Last farmland meeting, I think residents that live near farmland preservation properties should be receiving, if they haven't already, a letter that they send out every couple of years informing them of what occurs in the buffer, in case people see some buffer maintenance going on on the farmland property, but the 30 to 40 feet off their backyard. So if you live near a farmland property, Farmland Preservation Inc. will be sending you a letter. We'll also be putting that letter and some associated documents and images and whatnot on our website and social media, so it's clear, so people have someplace to go to better understand what farmland preservation does. And then other zoning hearing board met last night, and we just heard what they'll be looking at the next meeting. That's all I have. Thank you.
Supervisor Ross.
All of my groups are meeting pretty much every day next week, so nothing to report.
Supervisor Blondie.
Yeah, there'll be a sign circulated for the board to take a look at. The Historic Commission is going to put a sign up for Slate Hill. So they're looking for any insight or opinions that they have as to two proposals. Also, thank you to Jim Majewski, who was able to get the arborist to go out and look at that tree. I understand that there's no immediate threats to safety based on its condition, but more to come on that. And that's all I've got.
Supervisor McCart.
I have nothing to report at this time.
Awesome. On to other business. And at this time, I wanted to make a short update based on discussions the board has had. As many people know, the Ad hoc Property Committee worked diligently to develop a Patterson Farm master plan. And now we're at a time where we actually need to implement that plan, at least the phase one clearly of that plan. And to that end, we are going to be having a resolution on February 21st to create a Patterson Farm, a master plan implementation committee. It's likely that 4 of the current members of the Ad hoc Property Committee will continue on to provide continuity. And however, as we develop this short-term committee group, we will need additional volunteers from the community. And so I ask if you're interested in making sure that Patterson Farms is preserved, both the buildings and the farm, that you submit your resume. Would that go to admin@lmt.org?
Yes, it would. Yep.
That's admin, ADMIN @lmt.org. Strongly encourage you to submit your resume to participate. Everybody who emails me asking me to preserve Patterson Farm is receiving an email asking them to join the committee. So if you ask or lobby to send me an email or any of the other supervisors, I'm sure they're going to send you an email back that we want your participation on this implementation committee, that we actually do what we had said we were going to do, that we've enacted and budgeted money for. There's a lot of work here, almost too much for staff to handle. And that's why we need the committee, who has done tremendous work so far. And we deeply, deeply appreciate their work. So look for a resolution on February 21st. The solicitor has been given guidance around that. He is prepared to draft that. And again, if you're at all interested in making a difference in the community, send your resume to admin@lmt.org. At this time, I'll go on to agenda item 16, appointments or reappointments to boards or commissions.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to appoint Aaron Hansen to the Golf Committee.
Second.
Any comments, questions? Hearing no one on the line? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor of Ms. Erin Hansen to the Golf Committee?
Aye.
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 5-0. Any other appointments or reappointments to boards or commissions? With that, we'll move on to agenda item 17. This is additional public comment on non-agenda items. We have one. Holy cow, we have a caller. Boy, am I excited. And please, as you join, please tell us your name and if you're a resident of Lower Makefield.
Lisa is now in the room.
Okay. Lisa, and can you tell us your full name?
Yes, hi. I'm Lisa Tenney. I live in Yardley Crest, 156 Pinnacle Circle. Good evening. So my public, well, you know, I'm on the phone, so I want to say that there's the development going in on 1101 Big Oak Road. Now, the Yardley Crest, as well as the neighboring developments, didn't like this going in. And now we're inconvenienced. The trucks are lined up blocking, you know, Elbow Lane. We have a big crane lifting out huge trees that everybody thinks is going to fall on their house. And they're on Big Oak Road, right in front of the elementary school, blocking the middle lane turning lane to drop off their equipment. Now, there was great opposition in the neighborhood about this, and now they're inconveniencing us, as well as destroying the woodlands, the little woodlands that we appreciated as a neighborhood. So I ask you to work with the development, oversee their whatever they're doing, and make sure they're doing it to the township standard. And I want to ask you, since you should be refitting these antiquated basins, that you consider making Yardley Crest basins, which are larger than a football field, part of the retrofitting, and put it as a first, because we were wiping out 5 acres of woodlands. Thank you.
Thank you. To address your comment, there are specific rules that developers have to abide by in the process of
we
construction.
went through that. The
Okay.
neighbors opposed, the neighbors downstream near Rock Run, their homes are going to suffer. I came there and I gave a whole lecture. None of you were there. Okay? So in the future, it'll be your problem.
Okay.
I don't know what standards you're working by, because the Mapleville standards aren't right.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I'll mention for land developments that are approved by the township, they do have construction inspection, with the inspectors that are out there, basically ensuring that what was approved on their approved plan is what they construct. So we'll, continue to be out there for that. I appreciate the resident bringing to our attention maybe some issues they've had with taking materials in and out. If that's something we haven't observed while we're there, we'll follow up with the contractor about that to address that as soon as possible.
Excellent. Thank you. I know we've dealt with this in other developments, and you've been out there, or your compatriots have been out there late at night for light stuff. So we know, and noise in the morning. So we appreciate that.
One thing to keep an eye on for this particular development, because I remember this conversation all too well, is that they are not proposing, they are doing, I think they're somewhere along the lines of 120 trees that they considered to be dead or dying, or hazard trees as they tried to define them. So that number of trees being removed from a site may create a visual, but quite a number of trucks or movement, let's say, when just removing that much material from a site. So let's make sure that they're doing that in a safe manner.
Absolutely. Yep.
Awesome. With that, we have no other public comment, and we're on to agenda item 18, adjournment. With that, I'd like to thank everybody for their participation. The meeting is adjourned.
Good night.
Thank you.